Yo, what's good, YouTube? My name is Harrison. For those of you that don't know, and for those of you that do know, welcome back. Thanks for coming back to another video. Today's video, I'm going to be starting a new series, and we'll get right into that. I've been meaning to do this for a while. I'm a reader. Sometimes, sometimes I'm an avid reader. Sometimes I'm not. And like many of us, you know, uh, at my age, we're trying to get back into reading and get into more like positive hobbies and whatnot, and things that expand our minds and whatnot. So I'm starting a new series. It's called Bookstack, where I take you on a journey of the books I'm reading and the gems I find throughout these books. So if you would please leave a like, comment, subscribe, share this with your friends, hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on new uploads. So today's book, the first book stack, is Rick Rubin's The Creative Act, A Way of Being. I picked this book up maybe last year, maybe like late last year when it first came out. And I've been reading it, kind of diving deep into it, diving deep into my creativity as well, and seeing what that entails for me. And I did write down some things that I think are pretty potent in this book and pretty poignant, and have a huge significance on what this book is about. This book is not just about being a creator of something or something like that. It's like it's saying creativity is within all of us, and that creativity is something you are. It's not something you do. It's something that is innate inside of your personality. That you have a creative part of your personality. Um, that it's like the title suggests, it's the way of being. It's a way of being. It's a way of living. It's a way of doing things. It's a way of acting upon things and whatnot. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into the things I wrote down. So I wrote down 5 words. I wrote down tranquility. I wrote down present. I wrote down seeds. I wrote down situations, and I wrote down fear. And I think I'm gonna start reversely, in reverse order and inverse order, um, just because throughout the book, I think these 5 things are represented backwards. They like start with the fear and they end with the tranquility. So, um, fear. A lot of us are fearful to dive into things that may interest us, or things that we find interesting, or things that are scary. We may think it's scary, but we have to, have the gall to really look inside and look in the inner being of ourselves and embrace that fear. And that's what the book talks about. It's like embracing that fear factor of failing and doing it over and over again, and having that, I guess, essentially knowing of the unknown. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, so why are you so afraid? Just put it out there and just leave it be. So especially during, like, the book talks about a lot about experimentation and crafting. So crafting, which we'll get into that once we get to seeds, but experimentation is like, I have this idea and I need to expound upon it, and I need to experiment with it until it can become its rightful form. And in fact, in a few chapters that discuss like experimentation and whatnot, and then after crafting is completion. So I'll get into that once we get to seeds, though. That's like another part of the journey of this book, is this is a book where you really have to lock in and sit down with yourself and really eliminate outside distractions, because Rick talks about in the book, like, art is not for, while we're producing it to put out into the world, it's for our pleasure. It's not for everybody else's pleasure. So if somebody doesn't like it, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't like it and that you should frown upon your work and what you did. That's another part of the fear. It's like, what if I put it out in the world and someone doesn't like it? That's not what we're worried about here. We're worried about, how does this make me feel in the moment? How does this make me feel 10 years from now? How does this make me feel 5 minutes from now? Rather than focusing on the outcome and the results of said um, product or project or whatever the case may be. So yeah, and also with fear, like, we can get trapped in our own heads of like, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe I'm not, you know, I'm not cutthroat enough. Maybe I'm not creative at all. Maybe my mind is just dull and I don't have any like vast thoughts and ideas and aspirations. And the book tackles that too. Is like, you can't dwell on the things that you can't control. Like, you can't dwell on those things like, maybe I'm not good enough. How do you know you're not good enough if you've never done it? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you know you're not good enough if you never have encountered, the feelings that pushing that product or project out would invoke. You got to think about it like, I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this for everybody to judge it and everything like that and stuff like that. Like, sometimes you got to tune out the comments and learn to appreciate what you did versus worrying about someone else's perception of what you did. So yeah, I think that ties directly into the fear aspect of like just pushing it out there and just letting your child run free into the world and not knowing what is going to happen to them. That's kind of what Rick is alluding to here. Like, you have to be just willing to like give that push, push it out there. So next, I want to talk about situations. So everything is situational. Everything is situational. You might create something today that isn't the right time and right situation for that creation. But you putting it out there first, or even putting it out there that it's the best version of that thing that's going to be, could save and could change a lot of lives. So I look at this part of the summary of this book as, you're gonna have some situations where you run into multiple ideas or seeds, as Rick likes to call them, coming from the source, which is where all of our ideas and our thoughts and whatnot come from. You might have all these ideas and stuff like that, and all these seeds coming from source, but what you need to remember is that every seed is not going to blossom into a tree. Every seed is not going to blossom and give you fruit. So you can experiment with that seed, you can tailor with that seed, you can tinker that seed, but if that seed does not speak to you, then you have to move on to the next seed and nurture it and water it and let that old seed die. As brutal as it sounds, is like, a lot of us creatives and creators and multi hyphenated people, we all have like so many vast ideas that are all connected but also separate from one another, and that they're connected by a common thread, and that's you, the person that's creating these ideas, but they're like all of your interests are situational. Like you might not feel like a gamer in that moment. You might not feel like a lifestyle creator in that moment. You might not feel like a musician in that moment. You might want to go paint and then come back inspired by your paintings to create better music. You might go um, watch a film and be more inspired to play video games and make that your niche on your sector of the internet. You might go out into nature and enjoy a day out on the town, and that might inspire your lifestyle content. I'm just giving examples. Like it can be anything: film, writing. It doesn't have to be necessarily. When people think creativity, here's my thing. I think they think that it means you have to have this like mass like infinity of things that you like and you know and that you want to pursue and stuff like that, but it's not all about that. It's about what interests you and what you want to expound on, that you think you find interesting, that you might think others find interesting, and then y'all build a community upon finding things interesting that y'all find interesting, you know? So I know I said interesting like 5 times there, but like I'm just saying, like, everything is situational with creativity. It might it might be a rainy day and you're just brainstorming a bunch of ideas and they're all connected to you, but they all have a serve a different purpose. So everything has its own unique situation, own unique ordeal, and it has to evolve and grow and pivot and shift and mold and be malleable and stuff like that. And your brain has to be malleable as well to receive all this information and transmit all this information and store and you know how the brain works. But I'm just saying, like, everything is situational. You're gonna run into some situations where it's like, I wasn't really feeling that one day, but I'm feeling it. So you might come back to it like 3 years down the line, and you're like, wait, I actually have something for this now, that I had to experience life and I had to experience growth through other means to finally get back to the point where I want to create this type of content now. So let's move on to seeds. Seeds was probably my favorite section of the book. It broke it down into 4 different sections, essentially. Starts with, well, really five, because it starts with source. And source is where we get all of our ideas and our beautiful, imaginative thoughts from. And um, then it goes to seeds, and then it goes to craftsmanship, and then it goes to experimentation, and then it goes to no. I said that backwards. I'm sorry. It goes from seeds to experimentation to craftsmanship to completion. So let's start with seeds. Seeds are basically your little sprouts of ideas. The source is where those ideas come from. So the trickle down effect is that every seed, like I said earlier, is going to get watered, but the right amount of water is needed is differently attainable for each seed. Each seed doesn't need the same amount of water. Let me repeat that. Each seed doesn't need the same amount of water to blossom, because certain things may take less time, less effort, but they still have the same impact as a thing that took 5 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. You get what I'm saying? The like I said, you have to have that gall to put your ideas out there and let them just live, like just breathe. So with seeds, you plant them, you water them, you let them grow, you see how they bloom and blossom over time. But then again, like sometimes certain seeds just die early or die late. Maybe you had a really good idea. You had a really top tier idea in your head, and then 2 months down the road, you're not feeling it anymore. That happens. That happens. Seeds are are bred to die. Sometimes they have to die. Sometimes they get to the experimentation phase where you're experimenting with it, you're tailoring, you're tinkering it, you're working on it more and more and more, and you still have that creative mindset. You're still expounding on your creative mindset. With craftsmanship, you're less focused on the um the creative part of it. You're less focused on mastering what it is and what it will do. You're more so focused on the polishing, putting on finishing touches, such as, putting a final mix on a song, or, adding color correction to your video or your film or whatever the case may be. In that final process of the craftsmanship, it's okay to go back and experiment and tinker and tailor and continue to craft and tinker and tailor until it's ready for craftsmanship. You can tinker, tailor, go back and forth and craft, or go back and forth and experiment, vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So like, you really have to hone in on what it is you're trying to get across. So, seeds. You experiment with them, you craft them, and then once they're complete, they're complete. They're out there. They're out there in the world. Once I push upload on a video, I forget about it. I don't touch it. I don't go back and re-edit and re-color correct. No, it's rare. You're not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be in its most purest form, which is most purest form could be that seed. You see what I'm saying? But the beauty of those seeds is that you get to remain in the present, and that's what I was gonna get to next. So, being in the present is a big part of this book. It's like, focus on the now, focus on right now, focus on what you can do right now to better yourself today, as a creative, as a creator, as an entity, as a human being, rather than focusing on the past and what should have happened, what should have, could have, would have happened, what is going to happen in the future. You can't dwell on those things because you don't know what could have happened back then. You don't know what could have happened in the future. You only know what can happen right now. What you can change is right now. You can't change the past. You can't change the future. The future is based on your present. The past is based on the past. That's why it's called the past, because it's left behind. It's not something that we should dwell on. Honestly, if you ask my honest opinion, I don't think we should dwell on the past. I think we should focus on the present, and that helps in breed more insightful futures. That helps breed more thoughtful futures. That helps breed more electric futures. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah, stay in the present. And just keep your mind at ease, because it keeps your mind at ease when you're in the present rather than when you're in the past. Because if you're in the past a lot, you start thinking about what could I have done and what could I have done, and we are all guilty of this. I'm not saying I'm not victim to this. I'm saying that you have to move past that victimhood and embrace the present. And my last point of emphasis is tranquility, which is a state of peace and quiet. And this was what the book is trying to lead to. It's so, when you're all said and done, you're done with your seeds, you're done with your craftsmanship and experimentation, you're done with your completion phase, you can rest. You can just let out a big old breath. And honestly, that's the best case scenario for a lot of things. Because sometimes we get all wrapped up and caught up in the experimentation phase, and we don't move on to that craftsmanship phase. We don't move on to that completion phase, and we just leave it sitting on our hard drive, or we leave it sitting in our notebook when we should push it out. and just have that sigh of relief, like, oh, I'm done. All my work is done. I don't have to do much more. You know what I'm saying? So like that's really what I got out of this book. It was like a lot of like self reflection, honestly. It was a lot of sitting down with myself and thinking, am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right mode? Am I in the right mindset? Am I capable of removing myself from my art and just looking at it as seeds and looking at it as a like stripping it back and making it naked, like just loving it for what it is rather than what it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? So like that's really what I got out of the book. But this is the first of many Bookstack videos. I hope to see y'all guys in the next video. The next video will be coming out Friday. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do with it yet, but stay tuned and I will catch y'all in the next one. This is being your boy Harrison. Like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on new uploads. And follow me on my social media links down in the description below. Peace.